You are watching the Trinext podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Trinext podcast, a collaborative initiative by Triton Logistics and Maritime and Logistics Insider Media. I am Jitendra Srivastava, CEO of Triton Logistics and Maritime, welcoming you. Today we stand at the crossroads of transformation in the automotive sector, a realm where cutting-edge technology, data-driven strategies, and innovative logistics coverage to redefine industry standards. In this episode, we will explain how the rapid growth of the automotive industry is reshaping supply chains, the sophisticated technicalities that drive modern automotive logistics, and the evolving role of predictive analysis and demand forecasting. I'm honored to have with me two industry stalwarts, Manuj Malhotra, Vice President, Supply Chain at Omega Seiki, who brings expertise in sourcing and operational strategy. And we have Mr. Nikhil Puri, Vice President, Direct Purchase at Yokohama Off-Highway Tires, offering a deep dive into direct purchase strategies and supply chain innovation. Welcome, gentlemen, to this episode of Trinext podcast. And thank you for joining us today. Let's begin our discussion with an industry overview. The automotive sector is experiencing unprecedented growth driven by innovation and global market dynamics. Manuj, from your perspective, what are the key trends you believe are redefining the supply chain landscape for automotive manufacturers? And what kind of emerging technologies you think are influencing this?
Yeah, thanks, Jitendra. Jitendra, I think very rightly you pointed out, before we come down to this particular very important, subject which you have highlighted, we are trying to, club together the supply chain dynamics, the industry overall, and how it's shaping. I think before we jump onto this, it is really very pivotal to understand that there has been, first of all, I would largely advocate there is a unprecedented and there is a substantial growth which is taking place in the industry, in the overall ecosystem. The reason being for this is there is a demand supply perfect alignment which is taking place. The government policies are in line which are giving impetus to this particular prerogative. But yes, what we have experienced is post-COVID scenarios, there has been a larger time transformational shift in terms of whether it's a price escalation, whether it's in terms of geopolitical activities, which we are finding. Every day we wake up in the morning, we find there is a change taking place, whether it's a Russia, Ukraine, whether it is Israel, whether it is some other parts of the geography. So these do have a direct impact in terms of our supply chain in the overall ecosystems. These disruptions we recently faced a couple of years back in terms of the COVID scenario. Of course, all of us are quite aware.
Correct.
We never thought of, and the monster was approaching us. We wake up in the morning, we found that COVID is there. And this changed the overall landscape for the industry, automotive industry. When I say automotive per se, it is covering both internal combustion engine as well as a EV, because I have a mixed blend of working in both these sectors. And recently I've changed gears to EV sector 2 years back. So I found that the way of working and the approach has changed tremendously. Having said that, disruption is there, which has impacted us largely, but that impact is into the positive note. The reason being, we have learned to unlearn first of all, and then making sure we are, working in terms of dealing the uncertainties. Like I deliberated on that. It's a price escalation war. It's a geopolitical tensions, conflicts everywhere. And the kind of, the supply chain dynamics which are taking place in this overall VUCA world. So we are making sure that these are, in a part of day to day out, which in a previous time used to be discussed once upon a time into the, the executive board meetings to make sure that the complexities are handled. But I think we need to make it or adopt it as a part of way in, way out of our life. How these are carried forward to make sure that the industry is, moving in the right direction, which we are thinking in a way. See, second thing, the important aspect is the industry scenario is first of all gaining a larger momentum, be it in terms of industries for the ICE or for the EV space. Coupled to that is the government policies, which are largely in shape, and we have a substantial kind of evidences which we feel that government has played a key role into this, be it a FAME 1, be it a FAME 2, recently being the PME drive,
Correct.
where the government is also, they are trying to give larger shift and focus to make sure they are standing behind us.
Absolutely.
And they want this to be a collaborative journey rather than a standalone sort of journey. So I feel personally, as well as the kind of, the deeper and wider subject, which we are all into as a part of ecosystem, we see that the larger pie is available, which is yet to be eaten away by all. And we need to be at least future ready. And then coming to the last part of your, the kind of topic, what you said, very rightly you said, the kind of technological advancements which are taking place. I think I feel that we have to be at least adopting digital transformation, not as a kind of buzzword or as kind of, optional. This is becoming, the mandate.
Right.
Why I'm saying the mandate in terms of digital transformation? The reason being, we have learned how to deal with the complexities and the uncertainties which are surrounding us on a day-to-day basis. And logistics and supply chains being a very integrated parts.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't say that they are separated out, they are a part of ecosystem. It's a one phase, one is the supply chain and second is, and they are very close knit.
Correct.
Means that they both have impact to each other. And I think the digital transformation journey is now the mandate with each one of us, irrespective of any sector, be it a automotive landscape, be it in terms of FMCG, be it in terms of pharma, any sector. I think the early we adopt, the better it would be. So I feel that the digital, when I say, it embraces all overall in terms of, the control tower, which is, which is becoming now a very, very essential necessity of our day-to-day
Correct.
business.
Correct.
Whether it's a AI, machine learning adoption, which we carry out in terms of our manufacturing process. Because
Right.
when I'm talking of as a supply chain, no doubt I'm talking in terms of supply chain, but I'm making sure that since I have a connect with the manufacturing as my in-house, my internal stakeholders, and then you are also dealing with external stakeholders, which are your supply chain partners in your vicinities. So collaborations is first of all very important, and the integration of your ecosystem, be it your internal stakeholder as well as to your supply chain partners,
Absolutely.
to make sure that you travel that journey, you travel the milestones together in a larger way so as to reap the benefits. So this is what is I feel.
Absolutely, and thanks, Manuj. I think you rightly mentioned about the COVID time when there was a lot of disruption
Yeah,
which has
true.
happened, and I think automotive industry was one sector which was really hit hard at that point
Absolutely.
of time.
Absolutely.
And the way it has bounced back, I mean, it's amazing in itself. But I guess it has also brought in a lot of different aspects to it. I think your sourcing, the demand forecasting, the demand planning, your production planning, everything is getting more and more digitally, enhanced and getting more automated. So I think it's a very right subject which you touch. And also coming back to Nikhil, moving into this the operational heartbeat of our discussion. Let's talk about some of the technical intricacies of automotive logistics, especially with challenges which you are seeing spanning over demand forecasting, managing trade barriers, trade lanes, navigating through the customs. So, how do you elaborate on your team at Yokohama integrates these elements into a very cohesive logistics strategy?
Thanks, Jitendra. So, what at the organization, what we try to do is, because you have to do mix of all logistics, so you have to be multimodal at times. You cannot start thinking just at a unilateral level. That you say, if I have to send my goods to, let's say, to Europe, it has to go on. It has to travel only by sea, because you have to see the last mile also. You have to see the first mile also. So everything has to be connected. And moreover, the challenges that today it is coming is, as Manuj was saying, since last 4 years, since the COVID breakout, there has not been one half year that has been under any respite. What it has come is, so sometimes the war came in, first the pandemic, then war, the Houthi, now the
Attacks,
trade
yeah.
sanctions that are coming.
Correct.
So today when you wake up, you don't even know what is going to strike you. And every morning.
Absolutely.
So you cannot have a written down strategy for you for your all the challenges that you face. You have to adapt. The most important thing in today's automobile world is, or in any supply chain, you have to be more agile. Any organization or any supply chain which is more agile, which is more adaptable to the change, will be able to serve well to their customers.
Absolutely.
The demands are changing. The trade sanctions are coming. The custom tariffs are changing day in and day out. You are seeing the barriers are getting disrupted. You have to route your ships through Cape of Good Hope. You are increasing your shipping time by 15 days, sometimes 20 days. Congestions are happening at the transshipment ports. Or if any China-like economy goes down, then there is a blank sailing that is happening.
Exactly.
How do you deal all those things? So these were all, I'll say, discussions over a coffee, what now we are encountering day in and day out.
That's true.
So I would say there is not one logbook where you can refer it, but it has to start from end-to-end supply chain.
Correct.
When you are trying to deal with your demand, it is not entirely a supply chain or a logistics. It starts from your demand, then it comes down to sourcing, where your sources come. Your sources, earlier automobile industry was solely dependent on sole supplier.
Correct.
Right? They realized after pandemic that sole supplier cannot be done. Then they went to global suppliers. Then all these disruptions said that, okay, globalization is also not working.
Correct.
What do you do? So then they said, okay, let's come back to nearshoring. Let's come back, do a coin that you must have heard is called glocalization. So globally standardized suppliers available in your vicinity, right?
Correct.
That is also not working. So because what companies are trying to do is pick one thing and then they say, let's implement. That is not the thing.
That's not.
At our organization, what we are doing is we are trying to create a geographically diversified supply chain. So let me put it in a very simple manner. I don't want to say that, okay, I have a supplier available in India. I have a supplier available in, let's say, overseas. No. What we are trying to do is I have a supplier available in different geographical locations.
Yeah, correct.
So it's not about the country. It's about the geography. So it's a region when we are talking about. You have a supplier present in Americas. You have a supplier present in China or in a Southeast Asia. So because when the disruption will come, like pandemic is not going to come again.
Correct.
We have been, sorry to say, as supply chain managers, we are fortunate enough to see all those challenges.
That's true.
Because it has taught us many things.
Correct.
But other challenges will keep on coming. Like the new president every day opens and sends out one statement and disrupts the entire world. So those type of challenges will come. So what you have to do is you go at geographically diverse locations. That is how you will control demand.
Right.
When you address the demand, then you cannot say that, okay, if I have to send, do I do a multimodal? When I say you are a pioneer in the logistic industry and you will acknowledge railways is the least used transportation for transporting goods. Absolutely. And it's an irony.
It's an irony. Yeah, absolutely.
For the country as well as for the entire globe also.
Of course.
People rely on only two or three, sea, air and road.
Trucks,
Trucks, basically.
Correct.
Nobody talks about railways.
Yes.
And that is where, if you see, India is also trying to build a corridor starting from India, running through Saudi Arabia and entering into Europe. It's a rail network.
It's a rail.
Why you are doing that? What is China already has an existing rail network from China to Europe.
Yeah, correct.
Very few people use it.
True.
Very few people use it.
True.
North America strives on railways. If you cannot transfer your goods on railway, you have to, if you are setting up a plant in North America, you have to build a railway line.
That's true.
Because the transportation of goods to basically by road is very few. And you have seen that there have been truck drivers strikes across the last 12 to 18 months and so. So what I would say, the main challenge is, these are some of the challenges, and you cannot say there is one way on which we have to tread upon.
Absolutely.
We have to be agile, and you have to say, okay, if I am doing today, it should be changed by tomorrow if the situation changes. I cannot say that, okay, my goods were coming from China. Now China-India relationship our foreign minister has said, we are not going to do this. Everything is getting hampered or so and so forth. So what do? you change your supply chain. So you have to start from sourcing to counter the demand and till the last mile. How do you address? So you have to break it down entire supply chain. And supply chain is not only logistics.
Yeah,
I'm a firm believer, like he said, after we were talking offline, that till last 4 years, supply chain has become very predominant in the boardrooms and all.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel supply chain is the fulcrum around which the organization will flourish.
Right.
Any organizations who have a robust supply chain will take you forward. Not great innovation, not only great
Very true.
challenges or any new products. No, people will keep on innovating. People are still innovating.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Amazon has come and told us how supply chain is run.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Till then, nobody knew.
Yes.
So these are my thoughts, that it has to be a culmination of various things which you have to do, and you have to be ready to create new scenarios, create new ways of delivering and bringing the goods or transferring the goods and services to your customers.
I think I'll jump in.
Sure,
It
please.
is I think very interesting. Like Nikhil just touch upon some of the very key aspects. So Jitendra, I think first of all we have to make sure that now it is entirely a different subset. Why I'm again and again referring into the scenario of the COVID is COVID has undergone a major transformation at the enterprise level for the industry to tackle the business in an entirely different fashion. When I say for this, like he quoted the case of end-to-end use, I think it is very predominant and very, very, kind of it is impetus to discuss on this particular aspect is that before 4 or 5 years, industry used to focus only in terms of their silos. They used to discuss on, okay, fine, if there are, S&OPs meeting happening in the organization, which is a very, very backbone for any organization, which is on sales and operations planning, which makes sure for the demand forecasting, how it goes, whether it is in line, it is on control, or certain measures need to be carried out to make sure it is intact. So end to end, when we say, we have to make sure that from dealer till customers, up to see, and the change is that we used to handle suppliers and we used to give them certain tasks and make sure, whether it is done or not done, and you are answerable for the kind of, deliverables. So gone are the days. Post-COVID, we understood that the collaboration with the supply chain partners, should not limit up to their tier 1 level. Rather, they should get stretched to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. And believe me, in my previous organization, which is world largest manufacturers for the two-wheeler, we have reaped the enormous benefits during that particular time, because we have ensured that we reached up to the next down the link in the entire value stream mapping. And in spite of having all the challenges, when the entire world was shutting down, there was hue and cry all around. People are not manufacturing. There was the scarcity. There was a kind of, some sort of anxiety, or the mindset was there that what is going to happen next day. We have clocked the highest ever numbers, not only for the manufacturing, but we made sure we sold. So this was only possible, like we were deliberating on this aspect in terms of collaboration, which is a key aspect for any industry to make sure. You can't carry out the things in an isolation way. Your stakeholders integration is very, very important. Plus the digital transformation. The early we adopt, otherwise we'll be out of that particular race. And this should be becoming a part of your day-to-day. And you should not be discussing this in sort of your MPCP parameters, or once in a quarter, or once you go for the policy rollout. So I think this is something very important, which I feel personally. And we have gained benefits out of this. That is what is going on.
Absolutely. And I think two of the main takeaways, if I hear both of you out, is that one is, of course, a very robust supply chain, which you mentioned about. And I believe that, yes, it's a robust and a diverse supply chain is very, very important today. And you touched very nicely on that subject, Nikhil, when you said that the kind of disruptions which we are having, and which will definitely, the word disruption itself is something unpredictable, you know. So you may have another
you never know what is going to happen tomorrow.
The geopolitical tensions and the wars, and then the terrorism, and then somebody coming up with a lot of tariffs here and there, or just a statement about certain thing. It has the world has become like a one globe. Anything happens in one side of the world, it has ripple effect
It has
all
ripple
over.
effect.
And that's where you need to have a very robust and a diverse supply chain, where one part can get affected, but you have got the second part which is working, so it continues. And the other thing which you very rightly said, Nikhil, is Manuj, is that the collaborative approach, and I really loved it. I mean, this is something which is the future, not only for your industry per se. It's generally for every industry today. The world is about being collaborative.
True.
And that's how the future will be. So
You can't dictate. I'm sorry, again, I'm putting, because this is something very close to my heart. That is what I am, trying to open up and say, because I've experienced a lot of benefits out of this approach.
Yeah.
When I say collaboration, the collaboration was not only limiting within the organization. I still remember the CEO, called an urgent meeting post-COVID scenario to take care of the suppliers, overall scenario, because the world was shutting down. You are having your plants shut, your resources are idle. There is no way, foreign conditions are totally out of your control. And next is, immediately I proposed was, we should go for a HR consortium. He was wonderstruck that, what Manuj, you being a supply chain plant purchase manager, what is HR consortium? I said, there is a dire need to make sure that there is a consortia of HR, supply chain, ACMA, district administration and suppliers. Believe Jitendra, we were quite successful in creating, and I was single-handedly leading that HR consortium.
fantastic.
The reason was that I was talking to Deputy Commissioner Gurgaon at that point of time to make sure that where are all the possibilities. If suppose one of my suppliers is calling and asking for his support, that he needs this kind of approvals to make sure the plant runs. So this was only possible, and HR played a fantastic role. There we realized that collaboration is the key to anything. You may talk about any buzzword, but until unless you go for this, you will reap enormous benefits out of this.
Just as I think experienced supply chain leaders who are in the industry, I think it becomes our duty to now fizzle away all the disruptions. There was a time around 4, 5, 6 years ago, there's disruptions were happening, and those were not frequent. We were always saying, oh, COVID came. What happened? Oh, war came. Now, if somebody says China is thinking this, tariff is happening, I just then put them down. Why are we discussing? It was a phenomenon when it was happening rarely. Now it is not.
No, it's a day job.
It's a day. It's my daily job now.
That's true.
So as I think, because what it will do is, I'm trying to say is, you have to change the mindset in the organization. Because if as supply chain leaders, we start to panic, because believe me, like everybody must have panicked in the last 5, 6 years many times. But now when I say many, now there is no need to panic.
Correct.
If somebody shuts down his plant to create artificial scarcity of his material, of his commodity, okay.
We know how to.
I know.
He
is going to do that. He has done that. Now everybody will follow suit. What are we going to do about it? That's
Correct.
So now the question is, what are we going to do about it? Rather than, oh my God.
True.
So rather exclamating it, or we saying that, okay, this is a phenomena, this is the disruption. Disruption is like we said, we are living in a VUCA world. You don't even know what is going to hit you tomorrow.
Exactly.
And I think very rightly said, Nikhil, I remember the days during that very panicky waves, which was all around the ecosystem. The heat map used to be there display on the, Google Meet. So heat map, when I say, it was that how is COVID's impact cascading state-wise, right? So one guy who's in the PMO, so PMO, Project Management Office, I will now link this to the discussion. I asked my team, and I asked all future aspirants who have, some thought in the mind to enter into the career of the supply chains. Why reason I'm saying is, you have to be the project management officer of your own.
Correct.
Gone are the days when we are looking at PMO office, PMO when I say project management office in industries, because there is one particular who used to take care of some sort of exigencies which were arising, like escalations, geopolitical, price, or some sort of, something which happened on your supplier, you are getting a call in the night, and you are getting intimated that tomorrow morning your plant is going to be shut because of this particular part. So how you make sure? So one, we just deliberated that there has to be an alternate sourcing, so that there is a de-risking of the commodity. If X there is an issue, then you have a plan B, you have a plan C. That is a one part.
Correct.
And then parallelly, you have to make sure your project management skills is intact, because every day you will be talking to some or other cases which will be knocking you, and you don't have a time, and you can't say that I'm going to start. So you have to have some permutation combinations available in the supply chain to take care that your business is not at all impacted.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, we are actually living in a VUCA world. I mean,
It is.
And,
Yeah.
It is. I
It is,
think
and-
I don't deny. It's true.
and I think it also shows that how the human mind can develop.
And like, I think that keeps you on your toes. And that is, I would say, the adventure of this job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell the young aspirants, if you are looking for adventure, please come in this function. If you are looking for stability, there are many functions in the world.
Yeah.
Functions, yeah.
But if you want your life to, I'll not say everybody wants his life to become
That's
hell,
true.
but
That's true.
you learn, you enjoy, and today you can sit back, maybe tell stories after 10 years. What were the great things that you did in COVID?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What were those great stories which you can narrate?
That's true.
True.
Only a supply chain person
Only
can
supply
tell.
chain.
Only yes.
Fully
After
agree.
20 years, I'll be telling my grandchildren.
Fully agree.
Nobody,
true.
no other function can tell
True,
that.
true.
Yes, we lived through those harsh days,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but that is, I
But-
would say, the icing on the cake is
Yeah.
that it makes you it's an adventure which you are living. When you are living, it is not an adventure, but today it is.
I know.
I can speak like everybody can speak.
See, I think,
Entire day
it is,
for
it
those.
is truly very proud moment, and like he said, it is in the sort of very satisfying when we are discussing all
Yeah.
these things. I know I'm not linking this to I keep on visiting for the campus. I visit Puri, which is for this NITI, and then to National Institute of Technologies to during COVID time it was on the virtual mode only. So it was for the Thapa region. And I remember that immediately we were like HRBP was sitting next to me, and when I started, I said, "Do you know that in supply chain there is no timing at all?" When all this discussion finished, HRBP was very she was very annoyed with me. I think, how come you started this discussion? I mean, they are the college, Manuj. I never expected that you will be discussing. I said there is some reason. This was not with the impromptu sort of thing which I asked. This was fully conscious in the mind. I raised that. I knew this thing that I'm tossing this question to the guy who is in the college. The reason being what Nikhil said right now. Your career in supply chain is not, first of all, going with respect to the timings.
Correct.
You never know that you will get a call in the night when your guy will say that the vehicle is impounded by the traffic authorities. And that was your top on the Pareto material, which was supposed to be entering the night.
Obviously.
And then there is a chaos all around us. Okay. And number two, you have to have a passion in that.
Correct.
I said, if you are a lover for this kind of dealing uncertainties, then it's the right job for you. Else, you will find that if there are 10 guys, we hired 10 guys out of the college, 4 went for the R&D, 4 went for marketing, 2 were supply chain. You will always compare, hey, they are only working 9 to 5. And after that, there is enough time available to them.
Yeah.
But this guy is, always on the mobile, on the WhatsApp, answering to that. So I said, then it is not the right one. You have to have a passion. And once you do it for a couple of years, believe me, we are into that condition where we enjoy. And unless there is some kind of, exigencies, we feel that things are not in a control. So that is how is the scenario which has developed over a period of time.
I think the world is changing fast. And,
Yes.
and the way it is going, I'm just wondering that the next generation or the generation after that may have a better story to tell than us.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
you never know what is going to happen.
Absolutely.
So-
That's true. That's
So yeah, so this is happening. One of the buzzwords always, I mean, if I go back a couple of years in the automotive industry, was always the just-in-time.
Wow.
The JIT was something
JIT.
which was like a keyword if you want to get into the automotive logistics, like say.
Hmm.
Still there, very much.
It is so at the OEM end. So when I started my career during my Honda days, so I have moved across industries.
Mhm.
So other industries don't even understand JIT. They just talk about
Yeah,
it.
that's right. It's very
And because Japanese obviously were the
yeah, of course. I mean,
creators
yes,
of all
yes,
these
yes,
things.
Yes, absolutely.
So they used to live it.
Yeah.
So the entire supply chain, but I would say 2 decades ago till before COVID, because now the supply chain can be divided by this line before COVID and post COVID.
post-COVID. Yeah,
So
correct.
before COVID,
Yeah.
it was entire GIT.
Hmm.
Entire GIT. But
Correct.
I am talking about OEMs.
OEM, yeah, correct.
Only
It's
OEMs.
only
Not the
OEMs.
tier 1
Yeah,
suppliers.
correct.
Yeah.
True.
Not the tier
True,
1.
true.
So the OEMs are built on like that way.
Hmm.
But post COVID, the thing that had strived them or that has helped them grow, GIT was the one when you started your this session that automobile has suffered a lot
Yes.
during COVID.
Yes. Yes.
It was because of GIT.
Because.
Ah.
The prime
Yeah.
reason of because of GIT, and
Yeah.
that because they did not
Yeah,
knew
correct.
how
Yeah,
to
this is the
act
kind of
on
thing.
that.
Exactly.
Other industries flourished. They did. They
Correct.
acted on it.
Mm.
But automobile OEMs, because they were relying, they were not carrying inventories.
Mm-hmm.
If I said when I moved across March 20, the lockdown happened in India.
Mm.
I started preparing for COVID in December. Okay. So that is you'll be surprised because the reason was a lot of supply chain was present in China and we got early information.
Early information.
And when I said we were not preparing for COVID, we did not know this is going to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
We were preparing for China disruption. That China is going to get closed.
Mm.
Correct.
But in garb of that, eventually we were prepared for that.
Correct.
But when I say automobiles, after that, now they are doing a hybrid model. They are still relying on JIT,
Mhm.
but now they are taking a cue from other organizations. So they are putting up inventory levels. They are building up stocks. Otherwise, talking of inventory levels is like a crime.
Yeah,
in-
that's
in
true.
OEM. So
Yeah,
when I
of
used to
course.
work in that, so we don't know inventory.
Mm.
Inventory is always VMI. It is vendor
Yeah,
management.
correct,
Management.
correct, correct.
Yeah.
It
It's
is
always
never
VMI.
at your end.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
keep it only for a day or hours.
Correct.
I remember in those days, the TAT for one item, the car seat, was 28 minutes.
Wow.
Can you
28
imagine?
minutes.
28 minutes.
Yeah.
Because car seat was a bulky item. We
Hmm.
cannot keep a stock much. So 28 minutes involves shipping and loading from the seat supplier,
Mhm.
dispatching it, unloading it, and forklift picks it up and directly takes it on the line.
Oh.
It does not go into any warehouse. That is the epitome of JIT.
Yeah.
Just in time, 28 minutes.
Exactly.
Rest, okay, some parts are coming on hourly basis and
Yeah.
all, so and so forth. So now, just in time is they are geared up for that. They know they are creating clusters, supplier clusters, the warehousing clusters, which were not a part of that. So now they are building those shields around them because now they say that just in time will not work.
Yeah, correct.
So,
I mean-
I think very interesting part. Of course, it recalls me to, in my very initial ways of working at one of the two-wheeler organization where I think there was a predominant work and the topmost KPI was to make sure that you work on the Tobin system and you work on the Kanban, which is a pull system, or in way of your language, it's a just-in-time philosophy.
Okay.
So I would say that over a period of time, like there is a word which has been quoted by Nikhil is pre-COVID and post-COVID. So world will remember the supply chain, particularly supply chain world.
Correct.
Supply chain people, they will remember the word because we have seen that monsters and the nightmares
That's true.
that how it used to be the calls, and of course everybody will little bit try to link it with the kind of the horrible scenarios which got developed over a period of time. I think now the industry is adopting both models.
Yeah,
When I say
yes.
both models, of course, rightly he said that nobody was prepared for it. You woke up in the morning and you came to know entire world is closed. Though rightly, I remember we were sitting in a cabin. Exactly, I could relate back to that immediately our CEO was inside that. I was giving some, export status to that.
Mhm.
So I said, this is the issue. So I was asking some sort of kind of support in terms of internal resources for meeting that. Well, forget entire world is going to close. So I thought he's joking. This was not months back, like you were in December. So I am telling this thing in close to 1 week before to the one-day curfew, which was
Yeah.
imposed on that. So I ignored, and he also thought that he should move on to the next point without asking me the questions. And I also immediately realized that this is something which came as a filler in the discussion. So then to next day we were discussing, and we got to know that there is a intimation, and HR has a closed door meeting and intimated us. Immediately started communicate, and whatever resources are within that, utilize and gear up and complete, because there is some sort of scenario which is developing in the background.
Absolutely.
So what I'm trying to say is, now the inventory is industry. Recently, I was going through one very wonderful article, and it was saying that inventory is now again burden on that. The reason being, we faced a semiconductor shortages immediately, all industries. I can relate, because close to 80% of my career tenure spans back to the automotive, whether it is ICE or EV space. So we were struggling day in, day out for the kind of, shortages of electronics parts, and all these proprietary items were on top of Pareto, which were never ever in the discussion in my entire career, because you were keeping sufficient stock in that.
Yeah, correct.
And that pipeline got dried, and then you realize, and after that there was a huge pumping of resources to make sure that the dry pipeline is again intact in terms of. So I'm not telling something which is hardly 1 or 2 years back. So again, the industries has come back to the stage where they are thinking of making sure that the optimized inventory is in place.
Correct.
So that you don't have sufficient, because COVID is, by grace of God, we all pray that we don't land up into that trouble.
Yeah.
Of course, we have much more bigger monster than that,
Yeah, exactly.
which we are discussing and deliberating. So both hybrid model in terms of like we have EV and petrol engines. So same way, I think that model similar is the kind of scenario which is in need for
Absolutely.
that. So I look into this in that way.
I'll give you something of my experience 10, 12 years back.
Yeah.
And as I was talking, before this shoot, that I used to take care of the entire South and Central America, down from Mexico, everything. So we had a customer in Mexico, and suddenly we got a call late in the night that around 7:30, 8-ish, by the time the Mexico must have opened up, and they said that there is an assembly line stoppage. And all they needed was a pack of screws, which was being supplied from Chennai. So there was a forging company in Chennai.
Sure.
And so it was a small packet.
Yeah.
And they asked me to, that if I can hand carry it. And you believe me, they gave me, of course, the first class return ticket. So I landed in Dallas because I only had the US visa. I landed in Dallas, and that guy was standing with the car there at the Dallas airport.
To hand over that.
I just handed it over. And then they gave me like a 2-day stay also there that you can enjoy and go back. But I'm just saying that this, to that extreme, the GIT can work, that they didn't have even the screws,
See, the GIT actually had their foundation of sole supplier. That is how the business was always awarded. So when I say the sole supplier, only one single source was given. Then for some commodities, we used to give it to maybe 2 or 3 suppliers, but largely it was dependent on 80% was coming from one.
Yeah.
And it was, every business was given to him. Although many, I would say, risk assessments were done. It's not that entire automotive was not doing it. They were doing all risk assessments.
Yeah, of course.
But at those point of times, you had never seen disruptions. I'll give a clear side. I was not handling the category. There is a component called ECU in a car, in every car. It is called electronic control unit, which controls the entire engine.
Okay.
So which sends out the signal when it has to stop. Whatever operations you are doing, it goes through. So it is like a heart of the engine.
Okay.
So, and in early 2000, there were only 2 plants in the world which were catering to the entire world of automobiles. One plant was situated in Japan. One plant was situated in North America.
Okay.
And it was supplying to everyone. So like the world was divided on west side from Middle East, and this side was catered by America and Middle East, MEA and APAC, and Asia was entirely sufficed by Japan. 2010 earthquake came. The Japan was downsized. Entirely blew away.
Yeah, correct.
There was a global shortage.
Oh.
Forget just in time.
Yeah.
Global shortage, yes.
Every assembly line in the Asia got stopped. Be it Toyota, Maruti, or Toyota,
Yeah.
Suzuki, Honda, VW, anybody in the world, because they had obviously stocks, vendor managed inventory, but how much? 1 month? Somewhere 15 days? Somewhere 45 days?
Yes, yes.
Plant does not exist. And America plant cannot give you the supply.
Because
If
capacity
they
will
want
not
also, they don't have the
That's true.
capacity.
There's
That's
no
true,
capacity.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Because
Yeah.
it's a unique product,
Hmm.
very unique, and but the only thing was there was dependency was only one
Yeah,
source.
of
Yeah.
course. Of
Yeah.
course.
One source.
Yeah.
So just in time has helped the organization or helped the automobile industry, served it very well.
Mhm.
But as I said, now they are doing hybrid model. I was pleasantly surprised. I worked in different industry. There's, apart from VMI, there is one another concept of inventory which you all know is consignment stocking.
Mhm.
Okay, so when I went to telecom, we were doing it. It was a new thing coming from automobile, but over here it was an adaptable thing and people were doing. Now when I come over here, I see that consignment stocking is being done by at least tier 1 suppliers
Hmm.
Oh.
in automobile. It was a pleasant surprise
Yeah,
for me.
correct.
Yes.
It's very different. Eh?
2 decades ago,
Yeah, it was
no,
not the
I
case.
did not even heard of
Even
when
if
I
you-
was working in automobile. But I was an exponent when I was using in telecom.
Uh-huh.
But when I came and now I see that people are doing it
Yeah.
in this industry. Where
Yeah.
at least it's a-
you knew the concept.
You knew
yeah, I knew the concept,
Yeah,
but
correct.
nobody was, because your suppliers don't want to do it. They are not
Yeah.
trained to do it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
They
Absolutely.
or they will charge exorbitant charges.
Absolutely.
Then it will
This
make
will-
not a case.
Commercial
business
sense,
case.
This will,
Yeah,
this will
correct,
become the
correct.
case
So
of
that
your
is
cost
why
sheet.
even
Yeah.
guys like me would have talked. They said they will put up something because they don't even know how to do it. So they will charge anything and it will not make a business case. But now when it comes as a pleasant surprise, so I see that okay, automobile industry is now going through a phase where they are trying to adapt new things,
Mhm.
and they understand that just in time has served us well, may serve us well in the future, but it is not the only solution in the world.
Yes.
I think there is very rightly, I think we are deliberating on a very important aspect that ownership denial used to be there. Ownership denial means that if you are insisting suppliers to carry inventory on your head. So I remember since being handling end-to-end for supply chain, whether it's a logistics, new part development, sourcing, or the supply chain, which is
Mhm.
operational part, they used to put it in the, or they used to make it as a part of the cost sheet, saying, boss, since you are asking, just imagine
Okay.
and understand the statement which used to come from supply chain partners. And like he said that now the ownership denial has gone and now they are coming forward
Hmm.
because they have understood the importance it carries. Because when the whole business has gone for a berserk and they notice that it was their livelihood also, it was their kind of business scenario which they should not be looking at others. So so COVID has made it as a mandatory part for them.
Mhm.
And second, I think COVID has given birth to one more very important element, that is when we discuss about the capacity planning and suppliers management. Like we used to deal with one particular case, we realized that having understood the scenarios that if this will happen to this particular part of the India, or if this will happen to one X supplier, how to take care for that. So that means I remember that there was a evolution of one particular segment, which is CPS, capacity
Okay.
planning and suppliers
Ah.
management, which made sure that it is working tirelessly day in, day out. If at all, God forbid, any such kind of scenario comes,
Mhm.
then they come into the front barriers, they come into the picture, okay, say, Manuj, need not to worry. We have X supplier who is intact, who is in place to make sure for that, which perhaps was an optional part before COVID. So I would say post-COVID, there has
Yeah,
been
exactly.
endless birth somewhere which has given very, very useful and meaningful sort of business discussions.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, if you look at, very rightly, pre-COVID, post-COVID, it can really define. It's like
What we remember in terms of this
Yeah, of
demarcation.
course.
World
we
is
remember it.
demarcated in that
it's
way.
Yeah.
demarcated,
Yeah.
and specifically the supply chain.
Specifically.
Specifically the supply chain, because here you're crossing boundaries.
I think the two things that have defined supply chain are COVID, will define in the future also, and is the e-commerce.
Of course.
So e-commerce is one. So these are I think the two key factors which will, in times to come, people will talk about.
Mhm.
When you started your career, or when I started, did you know was there a department called supply chain? No,
No, it was not.
that is right. Department name was dispatch, materials.
Materials
Yeah.
purchase. They used to call it very commonly purchase. only.
Yes.
I
Commercial
remember
requirement.
my father looking down on me
Mm.
that you are going to destroy your career
Mm-hmm.
because somehow I started my career in purchase,
Yeah,
and
correct.
purchase was like a back office job. His job was only to pick up a phone and say, please put up this truck,
Yeah,
dispatch
that's
this
true.
material.
That's true. That's true.
So when I say, so supply chain, today we talk about very glorified way.
Absolutely.
The two defining moments in this function, as I said, one was, both were not necessitated. One was e-commerce, which changed the landscape of how
course.
supply chain is managed.
Of course.
And if people have read about the stories of Flipkart and how Amazon has cracked the supply chain,
True.
it is when you talk about out of the box,
Yeah, correct.
they did not out of the box. They talked about out of the globe,
Yeah,
out
yes.
of the world.
See,
Yeah.
one guy says for 50 minutes delivery e-commerce platform. Second comes up and he says that I'm ready for 10 minutes. Just imagine the kind of, this revolution which is there. Evolution has already happened, but
Correct.
now someone is
Correct.
talking 50 minutes. Second guy comes up and say for 10 minutes.
No, so
How-
now people
how-
are just
how this is-
modifying it.
Yes. yes.
It's now just, and nothing is more. Medicines are getting delivered by drones. So and
Yes.
so forth. India will also come to it.
Maybe the 3D printing might start.
3D printing.
Yeah.
3D
Want a
printing has
biscuit, it can be
started.
printed here.
3D printing has started, and
It's already started.
I'm sure you will be having a 3D printer very soon at every household.
Yeah, correct.
A 3D printer, because some things will be made at real time at your home.
At your door.
So necessity is the
Mother of
all
invention.
inventions.
So, yeah, that's
right,
true.
and
That's
nobody. So disruptions will happen, keep on happening,
Yeah.
and the new innovations will keep on doing, and supply chain will flourish in the times to come. That's how I see.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think this also leads to a lot of, let's say, different practices being involved. I mean, even in your industry, let's say, you must be doing some of the new or the best practices, which you might say, which must be streamlining your operations and especially the efficiency part of it.
Yeah, true. I think I would say that we had a great work which we did in terms of digital transformation, and I would try to figure it out in a way, like you said, which we started, I think, close to 10 years back, a decade back. Though we were doing a larger numbers, which were the world's largest manufacturing for one particular industry. I won't quote the name for the sanctity of this form. But we realized soon that there is no systematic or the kind of organized way of bringing material, like we are talking in terms of, definition of materials purchase. But when you talk about in terms of, the correct way or the logical way of making sure there is a systematic pattern and you take care of your OLE performance, which is order line under performance.
Correct.
The word itself came, I remember when I was in the lighting sector, global lighting sector.
Okay.
So there this word came into picture, which talks about not only in terms of quantity, it talks about in terms of bringing the material on that particular point of time. It doesn't say that you bring whatever time you want in a day, which earlier people used to supply chain say that, okay, I have brought the material, now it's, if it was required for 8 o'clock in the morning,
then it has to be
you
there.
can't command or boast of saying that you brought 8 p.m. into the night.
Yes.
So we worked in terms of, we started thinking in this direction because we were developing our footprints globally in terms of, and catering to the volume of 8.5 million is not a joke in terms of doing that.
Exactly.
This definitely necessitates the requirement for going into a systematic pattern. We did this in terms of digital transformation on the enterprise level, which is one of its unique in the two-wheeler industry in a previous organization, and this is still continuing. And this was largely kind of influenced with a kind of system which already Maruti is having. They have e-Nagade system in place. So that says that tracking of material starting from the barcode invoicing. This I'm telling, this transformation has already happened and it is doing successfully in the industry. From the the kind of material requirement originating from suppliers, delivering that, making sure you are able to scan up to the gate, up to the dispatch, and up to the model SQ levels if there is a 17-second stack time available in industry, and which particular, if you have 4 lines in your one plant, you are having 10 plants available. So it traces back to the exact requirement when it has to report on that. Of course, we did that. It was a kind of, you would say, CFT approach. We hired external big fours, one of the big fours, and this wanted to be integrated into the SAPs. So this was a requirement which we realized very early in that stage, that the way we are expanding, there has to have some systematic pattern. And the second most important aspect for doing this was not only for the sake of only doing digital. Like I say that I find and I see a lot of kind of buzzwords which are, moving almost in the entire ecosystem, but people don't realize that there has to have some reason for doing that. And if it is there, then it will work very well. Otherwise, it will become one more system which is introduced in your organization. It is not working because this calls for a very, very coordinated and disciplined approach of supply chain, warehousing, logistics, and your manufacturing locations.
That's true.
So that was our objective. We assimilated all, and of course, it took us close to 2.5 years. We achieved that benefit, and the reason for that is after that, we not only made sure that the delivery adherence is met more than 95%, but we went ahead of achieving the benefits of inventory reduction in that particular space. So that was a kind of technological advancement which we carried out.
I understand.
And now it is continuing. So we are now attaching manufacturing of suppliers where by sitting in your premises, where our stakeholders like, which is supplier quality assurance, which is manufacturing, your production department, they can easily link that what is happening there and how they can command over the parameters, because components reaching to your level and getting rejected, it's a sheer wastage of the resources, whether it's your or whether it's your suppliers.
Correct.
So rather you should have a control on once it is getting originated, when it's getting produced. So production quality is important rather than after you have produced for them. So that's a kind of advancement which is quite available into the industry for whether it's ICE or whether it's a EV space.
Absolutely.
So I just add upon this is at our end. Obviously, I'm not at the liberty of talking about my current organization, but we were in my last organization. We were quite advanced in implementing digital footprint.
Okay.
The things that the industry of fraternity are talking about, we launched Procure to Pay as early as 2016. And we implemented with one of the big solution partner. And the objective, before I talk about what we did, was before that also we failed a couple of times. Because we realize, is the digital transformation a vision of a supply chain manager or a vision of an organization? You have to understand that.
Very true.
More often than not, you being representing these solutions to many of your customers, you must have witnessed this. Some customers will be very resistant. They say, what am I getting? The discussion starts from ROI.
Right.
Okay. So we realized when we failed a lot that this is not a vision of me or my boss, or let's say for the function. When we are bringing this, it is not for my personal use. It is for the organization. So then it has to become the vision and purpose of the organization.
Correct. Absolutely.
Because it flows, the vision starts from the top, not from bottom.
Very true.
So vision has to come from your top chief executive. And that is where I'll say we started having close discussions with our management and all. And then we drafted a first purpose and vision of our digital journey. And then we said we'll go ahead. As I said, we failed. We brought in who's who of the world and failed miserably. And we blamed them that you don't have a good software.
Correct.
Your solution is not good.
Absolutely.
But when we actually went back to the drawing book and said that, okay, the vision has to be realized, then everything fell into the pecking order. And that is where our journey started. The objective, when we spoke about our ROI, we also wanted an ROI in terms, it has to be tangible, but most of the time it is intangible. So we realized the main objective of the organization is to eradicate NVAs from the processes, from the system, non-value added activities. We wanted to increase the efficiency of the organization. not increase the efficiency of a particular function, not I'm giving you X $1 million, how much $1 million you are getting me back in
that's
3 years, 4 years.
True, very
That
true.
those type of statements we eradicated from the discussion. And eventually we did it in two folds. First was we outsourced to one of the big consultancy firm some of our NVAs.
Okay.
We did it in two steps. We said our supply chain procurement team should focus on the core. They are not here to follow on the truck. Where is my truck?
Yeah.
When it will come, they will create purchase order. I don't want to do this. I have hired a top engineering graduate, not to call up one guy from a dispatch person and ask that at 2 o'clock in the night, where is my truck coming?
Yes.
But that job is required.
Correct.
Yeah.
But why should I do it? These are not the right people. So we hired, basically outsourced some things. First, in two steps we did it. Then we had a journey with them. And then we said that, okay, still I have just put my job onto some other people.
Yeah. So,
I'm paying them, they are doing it. It's
that's
like,
true.
so it is still not solving my problem.
yeah.
Then we launched our P2P, procure to pay software,
Okay.
a solution basically with one of the integrator. And then it actually served a purpose when I say so many barriers. So starting from sourcing, from getting a note for approval till creating a purchase
Yeah, all
order
this
and
is
end to end, the payment, everything was
is offered.
streamlined.
Yeah. Correct.
And eventually, like I said, when your purpose is on killing NVAs, eventually we were able to save huge amount of money. But if you
Yes,
start on saving money, you
then-
end up in
exactly.
Losing
a
that.
chaos. It
Correct,
will,
correct.
you are bound to fail. That has been like my hands-on experience in the last 10 years of my digital transformation journey, because before that there was nothing
Very well.
existed.
Very well said.
So in the last decade or so, we have seen that, okay, you have to fail. Yeah, today the world is more mature. The solutions are more mature.
Correct.
They have had these type of experiences. They have dealt with many customers, and now they know that what are the varied demands of various customers, starting from different industry to industry. What works
Yeah.
in pharma or what works in auto will not work in FMCG.
Yeah. Very true.
The
Very
same solution will not
Now
work.
will not work. Yes.
So now these type of things are being realized by the integrators. They are fine tuning it, and now they have changed their approach where they say, first we will come and listen to you.
Yeah.
Earlier the approach was, this is the solution,
Yeah.
implement it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
We have created one good thing. This is the best innovation in the world.
True.
And
True,
then
true,
you said
true,
that
true.
you failed.
Very true.
So that is, so I said that, okay, yeah, but as I would like to touch upon, because by this medium, I would like to convey this message. Digital transformation should not be considered as a fad, because everybody is getting on that bus. So we also have to get on
Yeah.
that bus.
True. Very true.
You may not do digital transformation for next 5-10 years. You still will grow. You still can achieve your targets and grow in a very better manner. So first, I realize what is your vision and purpose of doing this. Why do you want to do it?
Yeah. True.
Because his company is doing it,
Yeah. Exactly.
or my boss has heard from some place and he
True.
wants to show
Correct.
that I am a
Yeah.
digital transformation guy. No,
Very well.
otherwise it is going to bite you in back
Yeah. Of
in a
course.
big way.
I 100%
I
agree.
think it is very imperative upon to understand first of all that it is exclusive to your organization's requirement, the ecosystem which is surrounding. And when I say that, I clearly remember that when the proposal was put up, it is a big numbers, and because of the sanctity, I think this will not be discussed. Even I would not be indexing that also. And it involved a lot of stakeholders, like I said, internal and externals. And one of the big four was assigned because it needed implementation up to the SAP level.
Okay.
I remember the proposal put up was, and the worry to all the board was how to make sure that this goes to the top, because there was no sort of mention of the financial returns on that. They said, yeah, what are you talking? You are saying that you are going to incur this and you are not at all mentioning the kind of, I said, initial objective of this is not to get back the ROI.
Yeah. Correct.
We are talking about the structured and systematic way of procurement in terms of delivery assurances, in terms of bringing together the agencies, which I said, warehousing, logistics, supply chain. And that led to the even originations of the third party, which we were deliberating before this podcast.
Absolutely.
I said that was the first ever time,
Yes.
having spent 25 to 28 years in the industry and realized that you are not, onboarding any third party logistics or fourth party logistics. So then slowly we realized that it has to have an integration of logistics also.
Yeah, exactly.
Logistics, without logistics, you won't be doing that.
Correct.
You may not be able to integrate your manufacturing location with the suppliers, because they're not only suppliers, they are the manufacturing locations. And there has to have a perfect integration and synchronization of all these bodies. So there we realized that the digital transformation has to be initially for at least 2 to 3 years to make sure that the procurement pattern is set in order.
Yeah, correct.
And then the inventory optimization returns, which is still calculated, and we read up to 50% for that.
Absolutely.
And that journey is continuously going on. So
Yeah.
that is how it is.
And I think more from the cost perspective, it's an investment basically
Yes.
where you are increasing your efficiency. You
Of
are
course,
make-
because
you know,
sometimes it is only mandated that it's a kind of financial. See,
Yeah.
we should not be expecting immediately out of that what is ROI.
of course.
If you are looking in that way, then it will become a standalone system, which majority of the organization is lying
true.
there,
That's
and
true.
we see that there is not at all a purpose for doing that, and what purpose for we thought of in the beginning,
Very
with
true.
which it was
Very true.
implemented, and then looking on the the kind of deliverables, we feel that we were nowhere. What was the use of putting that in there?
Exactly.
So I think it has to have a meticulous and very, very kind of your actually needed requirement, which can bring in this kind of
Correct.
benefits.
And I think it's important that it is embedded in your vision.
Absolutely.
This is not a standalone
This
thing.
should not be just like that. You thought of something,
Yeah.
and for the sake of doing that, whole world is into this. Then this buzzword
Yeah,
fashion will be
correct,
only a fashion.
Correct. Then it becomes a fashion.
Then it will
you
become
know,
a
yeah,
fashion.
correct,
And if you are genuinely doing that, you realize that your industry needs that, and they
True,
are governed
true,
with that,
true.
because this journey went for close to 3 years. We were struggling for initial years to make sure that people are at least because they were resisting for this change. And it is not something we realized this thing. We anticipated this thing in very early stage, and believe we used to have a session. Then we thought that train the trainer concept or mentor mentee concept will work.
Yeah, correct.
Because initially few guys were trained by that big four, one of the consulting firm, and
then
then
you
we
keep on
thought
training.
that train the trainer, keep
Yeah,
on
correct,
telling them. We apprise them of the benefits which they will be achieving, because they thought that maybe something will come out of this which will impact them badly.
Yeah, true.
So then we realized that the human behavior and the kind of the thoughts, it is very important first to address that before you address the technical or the digital sort of discussions.
Absolutely. I think fear of unknown and a change management.
Yeah.
I think these are the
Yes.
toughest thing
Absolutely.
to handle.
Absolutely. They're the toughest.
They're-
And if you break it early, the better it will be.
Exactly.
Else you keep on talking, and somewhere you will find that you land up in a very entirely different world.
Yeah,
So which
that's
will be
true.
difficult.
That's
Yeah,
true.
wastage of
And
resources.
automotive logistics has always been with a lot of initiatives which were taken. Even back those, I remember when you used to have those milk runs. That is very
When
unique
you
to
just stole the words out of my mouth. I used to run milk run in 2007, and in other industries when I worked, people look at me like, "What are you talking about?"
Exactly.
I said, "Automobile was doing it 20 years ago."
Exactly.
Milk
yeah.
run.
Correct.
And if you have been to NCR lately,
Yeah, man.
I'll
I
give a
am
very
from NCR,
anecdote.
so-
Oh, you are from NCR.
Yes.
So I'll take you back to around again 20 years ago,
Yeah.
and only that highway existed where your past organization, the Hero Honda Chonk, and or from that toll.
Faridabad and all.
Ah,
that
so
stuff,
basically,
so
Yes, yes,
Sona
yes.
Road did not exist.
Did not exist.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Sona from Gurgaon to Faridabad did not exist.
Correct.
Nothing was there.
Correct,
It was
correct.
called Pahadi
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 Rasta.
Rasta, right? Now I'll give you the anecdote I'm talking about is of 2010. Commonwealth Games were organizing in Delhi, and the roads. What they did was, if you remember, if you
Yeah.
were living in those time, they earmarked
one particular segment.
and it was Commonwealth.
CWD
and it
was
was
written on that.
CWD
was written on
Some of
that.
the roads
Yes,
still
yes.
have that.
Still have
Yes,
that.
yes.
Still have that print.
So CWD passage was written, and they said for the next 15 days, no person is allowed to
Walk on this.
walk
correct.
into that
Absolutely.
pathway.
Absolutely.
So you divided the one-sided road into half.
Yes.
And considering the daily traffic at that point of time was very huge.
yeah.
And what was happening, and people thought subsequent information was provided by government, by broadcasting, that you should be you will be fined, or
Yeah,
your
yes,
car
true,
will be
true, true.
towed away. And I think first day there was a record fine, because after every 200 meters or 300 meters, one tow truck was standing, and people were fined 2,000 rupees on the spot.
Yeah.
If you entered into that
Yeah,
lane,
yeah, if you entered.
just wanted
True.
to cross. But eventually the problem what our supply chain was facing was, our material was coming from Neemrana, Dharuheda, Bhiwadi,
Bhiwadi.
Manesar.
Correct.
It had to go to Honda Cars plant in Greater Noida.
It has crossed that
okay.
road.
And the road was
Passing through that.
passing through Manesar, Gurgaon, entering into Delhi, Kapasheda, and then it has to.
Yeah.
Now that an entire is, they stopped entire this highway, that they say
Yeah.
you cannot enter. Obviously, there was a barricade in that before 8 to 8 commercial vehicles anyway were not allowed
Correct.
till 8 p.m. So what do? I remember Honda guys, we supply chain guys and our team, we scouted and took our cars and we created roads which are now called highways through Sona,
Okay.
through Faridabad,
Yeah.
through villages. We did this activity much before those 15 days.
Okay.
We charted out one area, created it out, made maps.
Okay.
Those maps
Yeah.
were handed out to suppliers.
That
This
you need to
is
follow
the
this.
only route you have to find.
You have to
Today
follow
there are corridors.
Yeah,
There are
I know,
corridors.
I
Yeah,
know.
we are talking about
Good roads
expressways.
Government has
Correct.
created. But
They were
I'm
like
saying,
interior roads और वो कच्चा रास्ते वगैरह
कच्चे
है ना?
रास्ते वगैरह.
Yes, yes,
True.
yes.
We took our trucks from middle of the villages. We requested village people that, okay, for the next 15 days, if you have any problem, the guys went over there, tried for some compensation.
Yeah.
We'll not disturb. We'll make sure that
Yeah,
the
at
truck
least you
will
allowed to
pass
pass.
between
Yeah,
this
yeah,
to
yeah,
this
yeah, that's
time.
true.
But
That's
at
true.
least, so we created an alternate route which was not existing.
Not existent. Yes.
Obviously,
correct.
so that it's a
Yeah, it's a-
gratifying period.
It's
feeling
a
today.
yeah, it's a feeling.
But like you rightly said, automobile has been the most resilient supply chain.
Correct. Absolutely.
They did not start it through this.
Yeah. Correct.
Now they are, for them, just in time is a concept. They
Correct.
said, let's implement.
Yeah.
And they fail.
Yeah.
When some company will not put up something, na?
Correct.
He's not used to. He has been supplying to you
Yeah.
and
Of
to your
course.
peers
Of course.
for
of course.
last decades
Yeah,
in a
that's true.
different scenario.
Correct.
And now he will say, yeah, my supply chain is established in a different way. For giving you this services,
Yeah.
I need an X delta.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is where you fail.
That is true. That is
That is where, so I see automobile realized that they have to create an ecosystem,
true.
and which was not done overnight. It was done
No, it has taken.
years ago.
Years and years. Yeah,
I
of
was
course.
recently speaking to one during my recent trip to Japan. I asked him, why are you asking a payment terms of 120 days? In Japan, the interest rate is, borrowing rate is too low. Basically, Japan gives loan to India.
Yeah. Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So, man, why are you doing this? So he said, this payment terms may have been set up like 30, 40 years ago. Nobody changed it. The supplier did not come because he's not even bothered.
Yeah.
Because for him also borrowing rate. So he said, it is just going on.
Become a
We-
norm. Yeah.
Because nobody is saying that if you go and ask, like, for example, like, okay, I can give you much faster payment, I'll improve your cash flow, give me a cash discount.
Correct.
So he said, he will not even give you a cash discount because 120 days for him is immaterial.
Yeah,
Because the
true,
same
true.
borrowing rate applies to supplier and buyer.
Exactly.
both. But
Exactly.
he said, but then why? He said, it must have been discussed 40, 50 years ago. So because he's a supplier for us for like so long. So
Yeah.
nobody changed to it. And it is, if you change also, nothing is going to change.
Yeah.
Only on the paper it will change.
That's
it is
true.
not going
That's
to bring down the cost or increase the cost.
Yeah, that's true.
So
No, absolutely.
the thing is, that is where things flourished. when you are doing a change, it has to be done at the grassroots level, not at the superficial
No,
level.
no, no, superficial. Absolutely.
It has to be done at the grassroots level. Like he said, it's a journey
It's a
when
journey.
you are trying to do.
Yeah.
And as Indians, we are quite impatient. We
Yeah.
want result
You
yesterday.
want
that's
immediate
true.
sort
We
of
want
things.
yesterday's result.
Yes.
to
Or
be
you want to
yesterday.
replicate something which is not really, fitting into your.
I think like he's mentioning Japan's philosophy in that. So my career started with only Japanese venture, which is in light commercial vehicle.
Mm.
So if you see that the inventory sort of philosophy, which is just in time, which we deliberated large, I won't be dwelling on that anymore.
Mm.
And even the manufacturing philosophy, the excellence philosophy or TPM, these are all true, which says that it is a years and years of approach,
Yeah, correct.
which is a consistent, coordinated approach, and it's not a overnight. I remember a case when I was heading one TPM pillar. TPM is, taught us this total productive maintenance philosophy
Okay.
for the manufacturing, where we put up for the top KPIs when we were presenting, and there was some sort of very substantial jump which was informed to the the particular the person with whom we were expected to express our thing. So he said that you are talking about close to 25-30%. Are you serious? Well, this never happens in Japan. This never happens because they believe in incremental sort of things. But why in here we always believe that we should be talking about something very substantial, and unless we talk about some 2-digit, people will laugh on us or they will believe that his work is not there. So we were quite wonderstruck. This we are telling you close to 15 years back. He said that you need not to be very fancy in telling your KPIs in terms of 25%. Most people don't like that.
Correct.
And see, they have reached to the enormous, they have reached to the substantial improvement, worldwide recognition only through the effort. So it's a proven methodology of Japan, which is there. So which we are imbibing as a automobile industry. So I think that is how the things are there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talk a lot about automation and robotics today. If I look at the automotive industry, I mean your production line, if you go years and years back, you were doing all those automations and robotics, without even highlighting on the sky that you are doing something.
Yes, we are doing all these kind of things.
Like from ages, it's been happening.
That's true.
So
That's true.
how the things have really changing. So another transformative trend in our industry is the integration of ESG, which is the environmental, social, and governance practices into our daily operations. At Triton, sustainability isn't just a buzzword. I mean, it's a very strategic imperative for us. So, how do you think that these ESG initiatives is reshaping your operation practices, and what are the specific measures your organization as such is taking, and what is your personal view about ESG and the CSR activities in the industry?
I think Jitendra quite well, and it relates to, like, I'm into this EV sector, so I can easily relate to the kind of the importance it carries. First of all, you rightly use, and I think you very carefully choose the word for the transformative approach which industry has underwent over a period of time, which is so-called environment, social governance.
Correct.
Of course, I would say I would little bit first of all try to touch and explain that it was there already in the ecosystem, but yes, there has been a kind of more structured, more focused approach of addressing this in an overall ecosystem. And when the subject for sustainability or the ESG comes, so I always quote and I largely advocate for the one thing, that we must give back to the society from whose wealth we generate the resources.
Absolutely.
Right? That's a very fundamental in nature.
Correct.
I think we need not to be more complex into this. We need to be very, very fine-tuned in this. And only thing is that the deliberation has been that they categorize that into the three different aspects. And industry, one is that we are doing it in terms of manufacturing industries. EV is the space which has been designed to take care of the cleaner and greener environment, to make sure that, I think if we talk about in a very crisp way, the emphasis should be in terms of making sure that you work on environments. Environment says that you should be water positive, right? I can say that there are some of the success stories in the industries which I was going through the article. The emphasis was to be 500 water positive by 2030, but industry said that we are 400 ready, 400% ready by right now.
Okay.
That means I'm trying to say that the work has already started even before it came into the existence. You should be carbon, neutral. Of course, that journey is a very, very structured collaborative for which there is a number of emphasis going on in the industry, and there is a partnership and a consortia which is going on for the industry and the academia plus the government. MHI is playing a very, very important role, and I would appreciate the government emphasis in terms of schemes which has been put forward for FAME 1, FAME 2 PLI schemes. So coming back to the point, so I would say that we need to work on in terms of logistics. So here the logistics come into the picture when I say the carbon footprint reduction. We need to work on the trips reduction. We need to work on the route optimization. We need to make sure that we use the alternate which we were debating in between the breaks. There should be a use of that. When it comes to social, you have to be in terms of, very fundamental of collaborations. Social says that there has to be, the kind of supply in the coordination in terms of collaborations. You're also doing for in terms of diversity inclusion. These are the subjects which industry has been doing that, but now the emphasis is that it has to be in a more coordinated manner. And similar way, governance part is that you have to be very disclosure. You should be very disclosure. You should be transparent enough in opening up your sort of the mandate requirement and doing it in a way the industry wants it. So this is how is my take.
Very true. Very true.
So
What do you say, Nikhil?
Like to add upon this is over the last 30 years, it's not that ESG has come up just now. It has been coined as different terms over the years. And now finally United Nations with their 28 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, they have defined. So no more now name changing will happen. But I feel, again on my personal front, is it has to be divided into two buckets. One are which all the organizations and the countries are actually doing it. That is whether on the water discharge, whether on the electricity. So PM has launched a subsidy on the use of solar power in the homes for household. So all those things are being done. Second is where actually more greenhouse emission is actually happening. Over there is still a debate. If I'll actually ask everybody to go and see the video or news articles of what happened in Doha ESG summit. Okay, there was a fight when a senior minister was caught saying that we don't agree of going from fossil fuels and going to being sustainable, so on and so forth. So what I'm just trying to say is what organizations, the companies or the countries are doing their bit. You are controlling the water discharge, you are doing optimization, you are doing all those fun. But when it comes to use of the products, then it has to be done only through government policies. There is no other way. The reason being is today when we talk about sustainable products, sustainable goods, so if you have to make a new innovation, if I have to recycle something, then that is an extra cost than today. The reason is your entire manufacturing setup is based on fossil fuels. So if you are trying to make, over the years, the new technology will come down. But today it is an added cost. Who is going to pay for it? Will the organization pay? No. End consumer has to pay. Is the end consumer ready to pay? No. So what will happen is, yes, end consumer will pay when a policy changes. I'll give a simple example where you can all relate to is 3 years ago, Indian government imposed a ban on usage of polyfilms less than 50 micron. It was being discussed, and funny thing was the ban was there, but it was implemented 1 year after the ban was imposed because nobody was getting penalized. But then one fine day, they said, I remember one nearby grocery shop, he was crying because he was fined 5,000 rupees because he had less than 550 micron polyfilm bag available at it. So what I'm trying to say is because government is imposing that you cannot use this. If you do this, then we will, because they are governing it. That is where in ESG, governance is the most important thing. So it is like when you do the governance, that is where sustainable things will happen, and that is where the environment will be taken care of.
Absolutely.
So ESG is controlled from here, or you can call it like this, or bottom up. So what you have, so till that time, as manufacturing of in our industry, what we are doing is we are gearing up for sustainable products, because those sustainability measures are coming at a cost.
Correct.
Because it is going to hit my bottom line. And if I pass on to my customer, he is not going to pay for it. So why will I pay for it? I am a responsible citizen.
Yes.
That is what I'm saying. I'm a responsible citizen. I want to do, but I'm contributing on other parts. Like I said, I'll contribute on emissions in my manufacturing setup, in my logistics, in my other supply chain. We'll try to do that. We are trying to create innovative things where we can reduce the packaging. Can we consume less wood? Can we consume less paper wood? So all those things we are trying to do that. But the major impact will only come when the government policies are coming, and Europe is actually taking a head start on that.
Correct.
There is a carbon neutral tax which is going to get imposed from next year.
Yes.
Okay. We in natural rubber, there is already EUDR type of, not there's 7 commodities have been barred by European Union, wherein they have to show a sustainable supply chain.
Correct.
End to end, starting from farm. So till the end consumer, they have to show that.
Correct.
So 7 commodities including cattle, wood, palm oil, so rubber and all the other things. So, and carbon neutral tax will come in the future. So when these type of things will come, so whatever the cost will obviously get subside over the years with the economies of scale. And innovation is always costly because you have invested hugely at the initial stage.
Correct.
So when it happens, then the cost will come down. So who is going to pay initially? Only with the help of government policies. So that's my take on it.
Correct. Right. And I think they are talking about getting it through their complete supply chain. So this means that if you are doing a business in EU, or you have even a subsidiary in EU or anything you have to do with that, you have to be ESG compliant.
Absolutely.
That's how they are pushing it.
Yes. They will be sending out agencies. The audit agencies.
The audit agencies.
And they will be coming up, whether surprise, still very elementary, whether they'll be coming up for a surprise audit, but they'll be coming doing audit at tier 2 and tier 3 also.
Of course.
Okay, so all those things, yes, these were there, but I would, as I said, not imposed. The classic example of that polyfilm.
Correct.
The ban was imposed, let's say, last December, but they started taking action this December.
I know.
So when that imposition, so it was announced that you cannot use, and imposing, there are two different things.
I know.
And especially in Indian contingent environment, it is two different things.
Yeah, I know. But the whole global supply chain is going to get impacted with this. You know, if today EU is there, tomorrow the US might start, or some other areas. So
Yes, that's.
you will see this.
It will see like against this European Union deforestation regulation. They are actually talking about deforestation is happening of so major these natural commodities. Now with the new government, old government was in favor. New government is saying, we don't care about it. You must be reading fossil fuel. This ESG is actually a hoax. All those, so though we are discussing, but in different parts of the world, now this is
There's a mixed response.
mixed responses that are happening.
Correct.
I think only one point I would say that this ESG is largely talked about in terms of the industry framework, or in but I think when we talk about sustainable sort of thing, when we adopt sustainable, one must make it as a part of their day in day out also. Even if you are outside the organization, like he quoted example for this film, I could relate that in the previous times. And I feel that once we are able to imbibe upon even a one thing which is out of that in our personal life also, that we'll make sure that we won't be going for a kind of paper cups or side something which is there in the office use with very basic hygiene for that. So I think it starts from there. And like the way we were deliberating in terms of digital, that should not become a fancy word for that. It should become rather need, and then it should be in terms of imbibing on the practices
That's
and it should
true.
not be once it comes to the mandate for enforcement, that shows that somewhere we have lagged behind in terms of our
That's
approach.
true. That's true.
And that's why European nations, all these people bodies, they are very tough in terms of that. And there is a quite pulling in terms of some are in favor, some are not. But I would say it's a call, it's a urgent
correct.
call. It's a SOS call right now.
Correct.
That need
I
to be
believe.
addressed.
I
Yeah.
100% believe, and I think it requires something from within. It's not
Absolutely.
something
That's
which-
what I am trying to make the
Yeah,
point.
That's true.
So that subject is not extrinsic to the nature, it's intrinsic to the nature.
Yeah, true. Very
Yeah.
true. So, so we move ahead, and I think beyond all these technical and operational discussions, and on which our industry thrives, I think also it's very important that sharing your rich personal experiences as a professional. What are the message you want to give to the new aspirants, to the youngsters or the young professionals who want to join us, want to join the industry? So, how do you think that they should embark their journey and start into this dynamic field? So maybe Manuj, we can start from you.
Yeah, I think very interesting, Jitendra. The reason being that I've been visiting, faculty for the campus recruitment, whereby I visited some top shot, institutes. So what I realize is that there has to have a connect of academia and industry first of all. Prima facie, the onus lies in that kind of, bridging that kind of, the pattern. Like you said that, what is the message for the new aspirants for that? When I visit there, I normally find a big gaps as of now. The reason being, though there are largely kind of scenarios and platform talk about, but once you visit actually to the campus or you are on ground, you realize that still there is, the kind of imbalance in between this.
Yeah.
For that, I think we need to have more sort of academia industry, and this should start from the curriculum itself. No doubt we have right now availability of the in-plant vocational trainings. We have sort of, others kind of curriculum which is there. But the industry, academia, partnership collaborations. Recently, I got a chance to, visit Niti Aayog for some discussion on formulating policies on the EV industry. That was a welcome step. So I really appreciate that. We got to meet the principal scientific advisor to the government of India.
Okay.
So there I could feel that sort of thing where they were about to formulate one policy and they make sure that not only organizations and the industry they invited academia, the top shot institutes of IITs across the pan-India basis. The objective is that they should be made a part of this kind of thought process. So my suggestion personal would be that we need to create more and more such kind of forums whereby they get to know what's the exact kind of scenario which is taking place. So that will help them in, traveling that milestones together.
Very rightly said.
Yeah.
What is your technical on this?
So, like all of us, I think I'm also a very big advocate of supply chain management. And I think today's generation is blessed that there is a structured way of knowledge that is getting imparted. Yes, there are still handful of good institutions. I'm not promoting any institute, but I'm just talking from my in the past recent experience of the students that I have seen. So students coming from NITI or which is now IIM, Mumbai, and or whether it is SP Jain, and only couple of IIMs where I've seen the course structure is very good and the faculty is actually coming from the industry and teaching the students. So at least I would say the young aspirants who are coming, what they should first make up their mind is they have to understand what are the challenges of supply chain, which we talked in our extent. I would not dwell more upon it. That I said that it's a very bumpy ride. But if you are looking for a continuous increase in your knowledge, continuous increase in your experience, in your ability, because it challenges your competency.
Correct.
That is how supply chain does it. So if you want to do that, please come and join this career. Most importantly, as I said, the groundwork is now laid by some institutes and more institutes are coming. From my personal experience, I have studied more after doing my job during my days in academy.
Yeah, correct.
I'm still reading. I'm still adapting because like all of us, we did not had any supply chain course.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
true.
Okay. So if I am not reading today, I will be lagging behind
Very nice.
and I'll not be able to compete. So what I'm doing is, I would say, because there is no, if there is a book of physics,
Mhm.
there is a book of applied thermodynamics. There is no book of
Book of
supply chain
supply chain.
management,
Very right.
because that book is getting written every day. And if you
Yes.
have to keep up, then you have to read. You have to keep on reading. With this, I'll just keep up. I'll just shoot some words in this domain today. Digital twins,
Mm.
blockchain,
Mm.
artificial intelligence,
Correct.
augmented reality in supply chain,
Mm-hmm.
real-time supply chain visibility.
Correct.
These are the things that are happening.
Yeah, it's happening.
It's already
It's happening in supply
Yes,
chain.
yes.
Okay. Some of the audiences, if they are listening, for them, some of them, they must be doing this.
Yes.
But for some, this may have just gone above their heads.
And it's just not happening. Sorry to interrupt. It's disrupting.
It is, that
Yeah.
is where.
Disrupting.
And
It's
these are the
disrupting.
only trends that I'm just talking about.
Yes.
Some
yes.
new trends which are still
Yeah,
very
exactly.
elementary in nature
Yeah,
as
correct.
of now.
Absolutely.
So the point I'm trying to say is, you have to keep on learning. You cannot say that, okay, frankly,
know
I
everything.
cannot say, I've seen pandemic,
Yeah.
I know it all. Sorry.
Yes.
Because war came and told that
Yeah,
I am
correct.
different.
Exactly.
Okay, so the thing is, keep on learning, keep on your hunger to learn, fire actually glowing, that
Yeah.
you keep on just adding value to it. That is how you will grow. You
Very
have a
rightly said.
base today, just keep on adding onto the base.
Very rightly said. Very rightly said. So, thank you, Manuj and Nikhil,
thank you.
for sharing your valuable insights and experiences today. Our discussion has illuminated the multifaceted challenges and opportunities within the automotive industry and supply chain, right from the operational technicalities, innovative freight solutions, and to the critical importance of sustainability and personal
Sure.
growth. I hope our listeners have found this conversation as enlightening as I did. Stay tuned for the future episodes of Trinext podcast, where we will continue to explore the trends and transformations shaping the logistics industry. Until then, this is Jitendra Srivastava signing off. Be happy, stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.